Welcome to the Tax Awareness Show. My name is Shilibo Mutiba. I'm your host. And today I'm joined by Julia in the studio. And I'm going to have a conversation with her about her love for fitness and healthy lifestyle. But also she's going to take us through about her career as principal tax at one of the biggest or rather largest mining companies in South Africa. Good morning and welcome, Julia. How are you doing?
I'm awesome. Thank you, Shilwe, for inviting me. I'm happy to be here.
No, you're welcome. Tell me, you are a principal tax at your employer. It's Exxaro Resources. And what is principal tax? What do you mean when someone says, I'm a principal tax?
Mm-hmm. So principal tax, I would say at the company that I work with, you are in charge of a couple of companies that are part of your portfolio, and you ensure that they comply all the time. You do their taxes, you do dispute resolution, and you service the business. So you are a provider of service to those various companies within that group. So that's my...
So how is it different to head of tax? And I'm asking this because there's that child at university who's doing honors in tax or who's going to proceed and do masters in tax and want to know about these different types of careers options as a tax professional. How is it different to head of tax and how is it different to someone calling themselves executive of tax?
Okay, so head of tax generally should be knowing all tax types, should be abreast of the whole business. It must have had a quite massive experience with the business, must generally know all tax types because there will be queries from VAT, because in the department you would have somebody who does VAT, somebody who does income tax, somebody who does carbon tax, somebody who does any other. So head of tax must know all those.
I see.
Yes.
Okay. So basically what you're saying then, the principal tax reports to head of tax.
Exactly.
Okay. That's quite interesting. Now, maybe before we actually go deeper into the conversation of tax, someone told me that you are fitness fanatic and you are big on a healthy lifestyle.
Exactly.
How was your morning workout today?
So I would say yesterday I actually went to the recon towards the boxing and I came back home late. But because I'm dedicated to health, I woke up today, went and did. Today it was my back day. So I went to do back and shoulders. And it was tough, but I managed to make it through. So again, that taught me that when you show up, even though you are tired and you show up, you are actually showing that those boundaries, you are destroying those boundaries. So, which is something that I did and I'm proud of myself because I was tired, but I made it.
Destroying boundaries, what motivated you to get going this morning?
Yeah, so I don't deal with motivation anymore. Right now, it's about discipline. Because motivation dies, and there's a saying that when motivation dies, discipline must take its course. So right now, for me, it's just I'm disciplined. It's what I'm going to do. I'm doing it for my body, and I have a why I'm doing it.
I watch a lot of soccer, and before match, there's these pre-match workouts that people do, to just get them pumped up. Others, they will listen to radios, and the people do different. They've got different routines, or you can call them, what is it, a culture, rituals. Actually, yes, they use them. They call them rituals. But for people who are into fitness, people who are into this healthy lifestyle, they also have pre-workout routines that they tend to do. What would you say is yours, and what made you or inspired you to have that as a pre-workout, something to pump you up?
Yeah, it doesn't really pump me up. I've now made it part of my lifestyle. So basically, I'm just doing some mobility routine. So it's something that I do every day. Like brushing your teeth, it tends then to become a habit. So my pre-workout, I would call it a habit now because I just do some mobility routine just to be flexible so that when I get to the gym, I'm flexible, I'm a little bit warmed up, and then I can start.
That's interesting. Any obsession, any healthy or a healthy lifestyle obsessions, habits there?
Yes, yeah. For me, it's about longevity because as we get older, you must be able to move by yourself, not relying on anybody. For me, it's about that, and building muscle, being strong and being healthy will make sure that as you get age, you'll still be able to do things by yourself without needing help. That's my obsession. Like in my golden years, still be fit, still be able to do things and not rely on people.
You know, what I've noticed with these healthy lifestyles, and, you know, you notice that there's also a trend of types of food now that people are eating. You know, I'm seeing there's a growth within that. But then I'm also starting to see when you go to gym, you know, I visit it sometimes. You know, there are these healthy snacks, and you know, they're trying to promote that healthy lifestyles, and there are smoothies and things like that. What do you say it's your snack to go, the healthy snack that you actually prefer?
My favorite snack is actually just protein bar. It has 21 grams of protein, 230 calories, and it lasts me for quite some time. So that's my favorite. It's from Just Protein.
Protein, more and more protein.
Yes.
How important is protein for someone who's into fitness? Yes.
Because a protein is like the building blocks. So if you gym and you don't supply the buildings, it's like gym is the people who are going to build. Protein is the materials. So if you just gym, people are going to build, waiting there, sitting there, but there's nothing to build, so the house can't be built. So protein is the ingredients for the people to come now and build the house.
Okay, maybe tell me something around. I mean, like soccer players, injuries do happen, especially if they always say that's why sometimes when you're starting out as someone who's into fitness and that kind of lifestyle, it's ideal to have a personal trainer so that you get the rhythms, you know when to rest, how to do certain exercises. And those that tends not to do exercises correctly as they were supposed to do them, they typically get into injuries. Do you have any moments, or have you experienced any form of injuries as a fitness junkie? So I can use that way.
I do have a personal trainer who assists me with form. And since I've started using a personal trainer, I've realized that form is extremely important. So I do agree with you. They will help you reach your goals, actually. So they are that light. When your light bulb dims, they are that one that's going to light it more so that you can shine again. So you do need one.
Those personal trainers you're mentioning, I mean, they tend to be influencers of healthy and fitness lifestyle, and they come up with all these trends and crazy workout trends that the likes of you tends to follow. And you know, because it's about the enjoyment at the end of the day in embarking on that type of lifestyle. Any form of craziest trend you followed in the fitness space?
I don't really follow trends. I just follow science, because the one that I train with follows science.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I see. But and then tell me, I mean, tax is a very demanding, it's a very demanding type of work, you know, especially where there's a tax season and everyone is busy and things like that. And I mean, I see with myself sometimes, I mean, when it's so busy, you tend to sit and, you know, drop on things like going to gym, you know, things like, maybe it's because I'm not a gym fanatic that much. How do you balance between work and the fitness lifestyle?
Because fitness is my priorities. I prioritize it first. If I'm not fit, I'm not going to be doing my work efficiently. So it's my first priority. And then I'll be able to healthy mind, healthy body, healthy mind. So if I'm not fit and sick, the work is going to suffer anyway. So I prioritize it then. It's the first thing I do.
Okay. And I'm sure then, I mean, after having worked out, you know, you feel rejuvenated and you are ready to start your day.
That's right.
You know, as a principal tax, how do you start your day? How's your start of your work day looks like?
So generally what you do, you just check the companies that you are servicing. Are there any issues on their on the e-filing profile? And then any things that needs to be attended to. If there are, you resolve those issues. And then you continue with the normal work that you need to do, which would be either when it's year-end, you'll do year-end processes. When it's interim, you'll do interim processes. Otherwise, you'll do tax return processes or advise business as they request advice. And on the other hand, there will be ad hoc tasks that you need to do. And then you will be required to attend certain meetings and offer service. The most important thing is you service the business.
Correct. But tell me, with that service that you're providing, to me, it sounds like you're saving. I mean, that's a very important thing to do. And you, at the end of the day, you must get some form of reward also from doing that. What would you say, part of your work that you do as a principal tax, what is the most rewarding aspects of it?
It's when I'm being asked to research something and then I crack my brains trying to figure it out. It is actually quite rewarding because then it's when I need to grow and need to learn, because tax, the answers are not just right there. Yes. So it is that part, let's say I get something that I haven't done before and I'm supposed to go through an agreement, give my inputs, then I have to crack my brains. That one is something that I enjoy.
That aha moment when you actually can unlock the code and be able to provide that solutions and that advisory. But tell me, earlier on you mentioned about dispute resolutions that you'll do on behalf of your employer, and that to me it means you deal and interact with SARS. What is the importance of building that relationship with SARS, and how would you advise, particularly, let's maybe move it away from your employer, but put it to particularly SMMEs to say, how can one build a more effective and an efficient relationship with SARS?
Yes,
particularly officials, of course.
That's right. So SARS is mandated by the SARS Act, and how they treat and engage with taxpayers is based on legislation. So they are bound by legislation in how to deal with taxpayers. So the only thing you can do with SARS is basically hold them accountable to their SARS charter in the promises that they've made to the taxpayer. And then you must also be accountable in terms of your compliance obligations, because SARS, they don't have any other way except to comply with the legislation of SARS Act and SARS Charter. That's how they deal with taxpayers, and they get audited by Auditor General. And there are other various methods. If where SARS does not come to the party, you can go to the Ombudsman.
Yes.
So, but SARS is mandated by legislation. The way they act, this is how they are supposed to act based on the law. And then your obligation is to make sure you comply and hold them accountable to their promise that they made on SARS Service Charter.
Speak of Office of the Tax Ombudsman. Just briefly, I know it's not your area, but just briefly, what is their role? I mean, just for someone who may not be aware of the Office of the Tax Ombudsman.
So if SARS, there is a service issue of SARS, that SARS has failed, you have escalated it and nothing has been resolved, you go to the Ombudsman. And Ombudsman will inform SARS to deal with the matter. And SARS is forced to deal with that matter. So an Ombudsman is like an ombudsman that you would get for the consumer, the consumer ombuds, the banking ombuds is.
Correct.
But you must have exhausted the internal remedies before you go to the ombuds. And then obviously they will need a case number.
Yes.
And then you log it with them, and then they will investigate, and then your matter will be resolved. Majority of the matters that go through the Ombudsman service requests end up being resolved. Okay,
that's good. So, but I think the important thing here is that a taxpayer should actually exhaust the internal remedies that are provided to them with SARS, and don't just run to the Office of the Tax Ombudsman, and which is brilliant. But I mean, speaking of SARS, recently the commissioner actually announced that they're working very tirelessly hard to ensure that they improve the compliance experience or the feel with the taxpayers. What can we expect around this, and how do you think that will have an impact on the taxpayers?
So I've seen on SARS website now, they've shown us that the royalties and the donations declarations, you can now do it online. In the past, it used to be manual forms. So that's one typical example. So making it easy for you to comply, because you don't have to go to their office. You log on to e-filing and then you comply. But if you have challenges, you actually make an appointment with SARS, and then you choose a slot that you want, and they prioritize people who've made appointments. They will help you efficiently. If you just hook up there, you will sit there. The people who made an appointment get priority first, and then you would come last. So and then there's also an online query where you can log your query with SARS. So they are making compliance easy for taxpayers. And my encouragement to taxpayers is also be a compliant citizen. because at the end of the day, it's who you are as a person.
You're speaking of be responsible taxpayer, be responsible tax citizen, but there are those who actually like taking shortcuts in terms of meeting their tax obligations. What would you say to them?
I would say you must just be careful of the decisions you make, because they go to other areas of your life. So you may start with taking shortcuts at tax, and next thing you take shortcut at something, next thing you take, then it becomes who you are. Remember, what you do actually replicates just what you want to be and who you want to be, and stick to that. If you want to be somebody who's reliable, who's honest, that's who you are. Take it with you everywhere. Because you can take shortcuts, but you know that there are consequences. But for me, I wouldn't even think about consequences. I would say, who do you want to be?
Maybe let's speaking of consequences, maybe let's talk about the what could go wrong for someone who's actually non-compliant with SARS. What could go wrong?
Yeah, there are various. I mean, you can be prosecuted, and we had the commissioners mentioning that non-compliance can result in penalties, administrative penalties, plus criminal prosecution. You can be prosecuted, so you don't even want to enter that. So
maybe let's then also say there's that person that is sitting there and hearing you and say, listen, I don't want to be prosecuted, and I want to make sure that I'm compliant, and I haven't been compliant in the past few years. What would you? I know this is not an advice, and I think we need to be clear on that you're not providing any form of advisory here. Exactly. So, but what would you have a conversation with that person who's coming and say, listen, I'm not compliant, and what would the typical first step be?
So my suggestion is actually get your compliance to see where the problem areas are, and then where necessary, and if you meet the requirements, just file your voluntary disclosure with SARS, so that you can remedy the non-compliance, because you have to meet certain conditions. Not everything will fall into that, but if you can see what your problem areas are, and you can get it via e-filing. And then if you know that you haven't been declaring income, that one is easy, because you can see if you meet the requirements under voluntary disclosure. Once you meet the requirements under voluntary disclosure, file that disclosure and regularize with SARS. SARS will actually help you when you come forward.
Speaking of voluntary disclosure, what is the voluntary disclosure? Maybe simplify it for us. If that particular person meets the voluntary disclosure program, what is it, and how can one go about it?
Yeah, so voluntary disclosure, let's say you didn't declare certain income to SARS, and then now you want to regularize. So you actually go, but you must not have been under audit. As I said, there are certain requirements that you must meet.
Correct.
So you can actually do it on e-filing. Go on e-filing and file a voluntary disclosure, and then it gets to the voluntary disclosure department, and then they will ask you for some additional information where necessary, and then SARS will conclude an agreement with you. That agreement becomes final, and you can't object to it. And I think we saw a case law that mentioned the finality of voluntary disclosure agreements. And SARS can take criminal prosecutions as well, and the administrative penalties get waived, and interest, obviously, then that's the one that remains payable, because interest is time value of money. But then you've sorted your issues, and you are in a clean state, and then you can continue doing the right thing.
You are in a clean state, and meaning that you need to start keeping your records and documents and things like that. What typically are documents and records that you would encourage taxpayers to always be mindful of, and making sure that they retain them such that they are able to meet their tax obligations correctly?
Everything that you declare to SARS, just make sure you can substantiate what you declare. If you say to SARS you earn so much income, you must have proof of that income. If you say to SARS you have certain expenses that you've claimed, you must have proof of those expenses, and that they are business expenses, and you must retain those records for the period that the legislation requires you to retain. And if you doing VAT, for example, you must also retain your invoices. You cannot claim VAT without any invoice, and make sure they are business invoices, they are valid, they meet the VAT legislation, and retain those for the period required by the legislation. So in summary, what I'm saying is your return, you must support it with documentary evidence. Anything that you record there, you must have proof.
You must have a proof of it. And I think that's important. Every transaction basically must have a supporting document. So then you need to ask yourself, for this transaction, what supporting documents I need to have? And if failure to that, if you don't know things like that, what type of documents? Speaking of that, there are initiatives, educational initiatives and workshops. Other than watching the tax awareness show, there are other initiatives that SARS actually typically have, like they've got YouTubes and things like that. How important are those initiatives in making sure that the taxpayers are compliant with their tax obligations?
Yeah, very important, because one I attended was about trusts. So believe me, in my years as a tax person, I learned that a trust is not dead up until you have a document from the master that is dead. And you must still file returns up until you have that document from the master that it is dead. I was shocked that, wow. So I thought you can just, if it's dormant, you are fine. But SARS says no, a trust can never be dormant. So I thought that was educational, because for me, in my years, I never knew that. And attending that workshop helped me. So open my eyes, even as me as a tax person.
So it's very important that as an SMME owner, or as a taxpayer for that matter, don't just say, no, I'm an engineer, my role is to focus as an engineer, or I'm a business person, I'll just focus on doing business development. I don't have to have a basic understanding of tax. So it's important to now and then on your leisure time, you can just go into YouTube and watch the tax awareness show, or for that matter, go into SARS YouTube and watch some of the videos there. You may pick up something that is quite important for you that could save you a lot of money. Even potentially could save you criminal prosecution, because you would have been alerted to say, hang on, maybe I need to go and have a chat with my accountant. Maybe I need to reach out to Shilly Boy so that they can assist me with my tax dispute matters. But then tell me something. At what point does one make a decision whether to internalize tax functions or to consider speaking to someone externally like Shilly Boy? That is always, in my experience as someone who deals with SMMEs a lot, there's always that debate around the value that external tax advisor, you can call them tax department, the tax department that is outsourced and versus the tax department that is insourced. Typically, they'll want finance manager to deal with those matters. At what point these SMME owners, because large corporates already knows, like they know that we need principal tax, we need executive tax, or we need head of tax. But at what point does the SMME or do the SMMEs rather make that call, make that decision to say what sort of a checklist of what to look out for to say, I think I need to externalize these, or I think I need to internalize these?
Yes, as your business starts to grow and you enter into transactions that starts to be complex, my recommendation is just try and seek an advice from those, especially before you enter into those transactions, so that you don't end up with a costly tax cost, because you entered into a transaction before you knew the tax impact of it. So as your business grows, so if your business is still simple, you still have gross income that is taxable and you still have expenses that are deductible, I think it's fine. Continue with your finance manager to help you. But as you start to grow, or as legislation becomes more complex, there's more provisions added to the legislation that are a little bit complex, before you try to enter into a transaction to be able to benefit from that legislation, just try and just get advice first. Because if you don't, you may end up with a cost, and then for you as a small business, it was not worth it.
But speaking of deductions, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Yes. If you're to come up with a deduction, something that you think we should be allowed to deduct, particularly individuals or particularly SMMEs for that matter, what would that be?
Individuals.
Yes, maybe something that you think like, oh guys, we should be allowed to deduct this, but we can't deduct it.
Yes. Let me just think about it. Well, I would say for individuals, it will be costs that help you to earn your income that you're earning.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like maybe going to work and things like that. Oh, it's actually, there's a case there, right? There's a case. Maybe we need to write more articles around that and argue. But I wonder if National Treasury will agree in this current climate where they need money. But maybe speaking of National Treasury, what's going on, guys?
Yes.
What's going on out there? What's your take? What's going on?
So my take is, I feel the tax base must just be expanded. That's my take. Must just be expanded a whole lot more, because I still feel there are some people who are running businesses are still not registered. So they must just, in my view, they must expand their tax base and expand it more. And I believe churches that are wealthy, that really, they can also contribute. Maybe just look for churches that are wealthy, just ask them to contribute, maybe introduces a small percentage of tax for them to contribute it, because then you are helping the country, because you're a big church, you are wealthy, you have luxury, everything. So all those ones also, if they can contribute.
I don't know if those pastors will agree with you.
Yeah, if they can, that's my view. Just expand, but don't tax us more. Expand it, because people are already stressed. Don't tax, expand it and ask, like you say, those pastors just open their minds for them to see how it will benefit, expand it and then cut your expenditure also, and then maintain balance. Then maybe we can be better.
We can be better. But tell me something. What made you to enter the tax field as a career? And I'll tell you why I'm asking this question. And that's what inspired this program, is that coming from previously disadvantaged background, we're typically not aware of careers such as being a tax advisor. I see that there's also designation now called Chartered Tax Advisor now in South Africa, which is something new. But most kids that are coming from previously disadvantaged backgrounds, similar to me, where I grew up, are not aware of this tax as a career path. What led you to be where you are, and what would you talk to that child who's at university about various opportunities that are there as to take on, and the growing of tax as a profession?
So I did my CTA. So CTA, you do tax, accounting, financial accounting, and auditing, and then I did my articles. I didn't enjoy accounting. I didn't enjoy auditing, and then tax, I ended up going there. However, I ended up enjoying it. And then, wow, I'm here now. So actually, I would say I was led.
Oh, you were led. It was more spiritual. It was more accidental. Yes. And because you enjoyed it.
That's
and
right.
Then you said, listen, let me follow this path because I'm more in love with this profession. That's amazing. Maybe in closing, in this show, we've got a catch. And we didn't tell you about it. Right. By the way, I didn't tell her. It's either you sing, okay, or we've got an NGO called Tax Education South Africa. So it's about educating the taxpayers. It's about promoting tax as a profession. So tax careers and things like that. So we do career days in high schools, previously disadvantaged schools. We also have career expo, tax careers expo. And we have a tax awareness conference just to bring awareness around tax as a profession and things like that. So it's either you sing for us or you agree that, Shilly Boy, the day that you guys are going to have a career day, I'm going to donate school shoes for some of those previously disadvantaged kids. So which one do you prefer?
Well, I guess I'll donate school shoes. One school shoes to somebody.
Oh, that would be amazing. So Julia have agreed that when we are going to be hosting that career day, she's going to be donating. Maybe she'll even bring her employer on board, to come and participate during that career day and demonstrate what type of opportunities are there for people who wants to explore and be tax professionals. Because someone who's sitting somewhere could be thinking that in order for me to work for companies like Exxaro, Anglo-American, I need to be an engineer or, a geologist and things like that. They may not be thinking that, listen, you can actually work for Exxaro even if you did tax, and for that matter, there's a room and there's areas that you can specialize in VAT, typically, maybe let me even ask you in closing with that, within your employer, what type of roles have you seen? It's the specialty for that matter. What have you seen?
Yeah, it's very specialized. Like I said, there will be VAT, there will be PSUN, carbon tax, if within the tax environment, royalty tax,
yes,
international tax if you have a multinational,
yes, transfer pricing,
exactly, yes.
So there's a broader career opportunities that one can actually explore once they've joined multinational companies like your company, because it's not only your employer, could be Sasol, could be Anglo-American, could be, we've got MTN for that matter.
Even SARS.
Even SARS for that matter.
SARS, you work in the international tax. There's also variety there. There's international tax, there's retail, there's mining. So even SARS as well.
Okay, so you've heard from Julia that there are various career opportunities in all these multinational companies. Don't look at the multinational company and be known to be a mining company and you're thinking that you can't actually work in those companies having done tax for that matter. You can actually work for that. Julia, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate for you coming and honoring us. And we look forward to working with you. We're going to hold you accountable for donating to that child.
Definitely. I always keep my weight, don't worry.
Oh, no. I've seen that. I agree. So, yeah, Julia will be also perhaps even joining us in some of these career days just to give and bring awareness to those previously disadvantaged kids who are exploring opportunities in the tax as a career. My name is Shiliba Mutiba. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to see you in the next episode. Cheers.